Exploring virtual machine settings in Hyper-V. So if I go to my Hyper 3 and select Server 3 VM, as you can see right now it's running CPU, which is 11%. Down there I have some tabs, which is a summary. First one is a summary tab that shows when it's created, what's the configuration version, what's the generation, and is it clustered or not, and heartbeat, it's okay, means the integration services is sending the heartbeat. It's like VMware tools you have, or in vSphere you have VMware tools that send heartbeat. Memory, the startup memory, it's configured 1024 MB, which is 1 gig. Dynamic memory is enabled, so minimum is 512 MB that it can use, and maximum it can go as much as 2 gig. At the moment, the memory in demand, which is the memory in use, it's 448 MB, and assigned memory is 540 MB, which is a 20% buffer. For example, if I just show you here, if you remember in last video, if I go to memory, there is a 20% memory buffer. So suppose if it requires 1 gig memory, so in this, let's say if the system is utilizing 1 gig of RAM, then the assigned memory will be 1.2 gig. You know, if memory demand is 1 gig, it will be 1.2. Memory status is low. Here, networking, it's showing the network adapter, which is the MAC address, the type connected to virtual switch, what IP address does it has, the status. And at the moment, the replication is disabled for this or not enabled for this VM, which you can always enable from here. Keep this in mind. You also need to enable replication at host level to prepare that Hyper-V host so that it can, you know, take part in the replication process. And then you need to enable replication at VM level. Maybe in Hyper-V host, I have 5 VMs and I want to replicate 3 of them. So what I have to do first, I need to enable replication at Hyper-V host as well as configure those 3 VMs for replication as well. And as I mentioned earlier, connect option will connect me, give me a console. I can eject CD drive or mount and other things. I can turn it off, shut it down, checkpoint, which is snapshot. I would say CP1, for example. So it will create a checkpoint by default. What kind of checkpoint will create or snapshot? As you know, what checkpoints are, it's reserved the state of VM. And as you can see, the production checkpoint has been created. And there are 2 types of checkpoints. Uh, Production checkpoint and standard checkpoints. Production checkpoints are useful if you have applications like um, Exchange, SQL. So it used, uh, uh, um, inside the guest. Uh, so what it does, if you use production checkpoints, it used the snapshot or shadow copy service inside the guest to make sure it can take, you know, a reliable snapshot that can be used based on those applications. And standard snapshots are just snapshots. And if I want to take memory snapshots, that can also be done. Revert, if I say revert, it will tell me, to its previous checkpoint. I can say revert or don't. Here, as you can see, I can see this checkpoint here. I can always delete the checkpoint, you know, or check the settings of it. So I can always, as you can see here, production checkpoints. If it's by default, if it's not possible to create a production checkpoint, it will go for standard checkpoints. You can always change that. So if I just go to the VM itself and say checkpoint, it will also start creating checkpoint, another checkpoint. So just to let you know that checkpoints are useful. However, as you can see, this is the VM level options of checkpoints. I can always manipulate that where I would like to that checkpoint to be created, where I would like to be saved, and what type of checkpoints I need. If I don't want checkpoints to be created, I can always disable these checkpoints. Once again, production checkpoints. It uses the backup technology inside the guest operating system. What type of backup technology? Volume shadow copy service to create data consistent checkpoints for about it's good for especially when you have running applications like Exchange, SQL, and all that. And standard checkpoints, that takes the current state of whatever it is, as it is. And this is the location. So what if, one more thing though, as I click the checkpoint, this is another checkpoint. So as you can see, the first one when I say before, it asked me, but now here, when I just simply say checkpoint, it will create a default checkpoint with this name, with the VM name and the date and time. So what if I want to delete it? Or before deleting, if I go here and say inspect disk, you will see two AVHDX files. AVHDX are the files that are related to checkpoints. If you remember previous video, there was inside this folder there was just VHDX file. But as I have two checkpoints now, so I have two AVHDX files. So if I go to settings and let's say I go to hard drive and this time I say inspect. You see VHDX differencing hard drive. This is the currently I'm using the differencing disk. And this is the parent, right? So if I say inspect parent, it just shows here maximum size, reference disk, it's all that. So checkpoint, don't forget, create differencing disks and differencing disk. As we know, they have a parent disk and a child disk. And once you delete all snapshots or checkpoints, everything is merged into a single file, which is called consolidating also in VMware. Why I'm giving you example of VMware because I have already videos created. I've already created videos on VMware, and I'm assuming that as VMware is also one of the most popular hypervisor, so anybody who is familiar with VMware, it will be easy for them to learn this Hyper-V. Or those who are familiar with Hyper-V, they will know, okay, it will be good for them also to know that there is a feature in VMware which is equivalent to this. I can't do the edit option anymore. You You see, we got the checkpoint access for this virtual machine. So what's new? So if I say new, it will allow me to create a new virtual disk. For example, I want to create a new volume E, then I can do that. What type of disk I want to create? Fixed, dynamically expanding, thin volume, or differencing. It's a parent-child relationship, as I said. Fixed size, it will automatically consume the space. So if I say 40 gig right now, so it will immediately allocate 40 disk from from volume. Dynamically expanding. So if I say 40 gig dynamically expanding, then initially the size will be in few kilobytes. So if I write 10 gigs of data to it, although the virtual size is 40 gig, but the actual size will be 10 gig. So these are the few things that I wanted to just show you. And yeah, what if I want to import this VM and export it to somewhere else? Yes, I can do that. If I say import VM from a set of configuration files. Oh, no. Uh, I don't have the VM that I can import at the moment, but I will show you this option that once you have the one VM, you can always import files from it. And what else? What else? What else? What else? So revert is going back, as I say, to the checkpoint. Move. Uh, we don't. Yeah. Move. I can explain to you a little bit. So if I click Move options, it will ask you what you want. You want to move to a different host, or you want to move the virtual machine storage. Let's say right now the VM virtual machines files are on E drive, and I say there is another volume called F. So I can move from E to F or E to C. I can do that. Or move from local storage to cluster shared volume, which is, let's say, SMB share. So you see, move type, move the virtual machine, that's like a live migration, or move the virtual machine in storage. Please ask the destination computer. Yeah, no location has been found. So move option, it's there, and I can move VM or move the VM storage. I will explain this to you and I will configure some few settings and options. And also I will explain replication option in another video. So I think this is pretty much it for this video. And thank you very much. And I will see you in another video. Take it easy.